vendor relationships are essential for your success within a DAM solution. It is important that when moving into your research or just living within the research phase of a solution, that you ask them these questions and don't hesitate to ask into them. You know, a lot of people on the sales side will have their really glossed answer. And it's important to kind of make sure you understand it and not be afraid to kind of advocate for yourself in this process. So some ways to ensure that you are, you know, if you will, getting your cake and eating it too, are to ask into the onboarding process and the timing. And in order to make sure that that is a clear assessment, perhaps you feel comfortable having somebody sign an NDA and looking at your current solution that you're working within and having them actually build out an assessment of kind of a time estimate that goes along with this roadmap that's part of it. Don't be afraid to ask for maybe a research phase up front, which is of a minimal cost, to make sure that the long-term cost is actually being spent appropriately. So I would say make sure you're protecting your investment and your time frame and all these different areas of sensitivity that you're going to know much better and possibly keep close to the vest in these conversations. Be sure that you're kind of opening them up and kind of digging deep to get the answers you need in this moment. Also, if we're looking at giving access to someone to kind of go through our existing solutions, it's important that you get their feedback around asset cleanup and migration. For instance, we've had some people say that they have 7 terabytes of assets that they migrated. The reality was they had 2 terabytes of assets that they migrated. The other 5 are just duplicates. And having an expert be able to go in there and kind of dig around a little bit to give you the expert opinion, expert advice on how to most efficiently and effectively be using your data, it's important. Now, of course, it takes trust to begin with to give someone that kind of access. You don't want to just go ahead and give everybody access, but find somebody who in conversation you feel warm and you can trust them enough to give them this kind of access to begin to brainstorm with them.
Yeah, not everything goes right. You know, I mean, there's always challenges, and hopefully it's not about the software. It just might be about your usage of it. You want to have that support. I mean, talk to us a little bit about that, Bryce. You've had a lot of experience with support levels, support plans. What should you be looking for when you're trying to pick a provider? Partner?
Absolutely. This is, I love these conversations. We've looked for different solutions in the past with different teams that we've led. And you often hear, there's 24/7 support. What's tricky about that is that you don't realize that the intern is the one who you're going to get after 2 a.m., right? That you just don't know what that means, but it sounds great up front. So again, broaden your mind to be inquisitive enough to ask into these questions of, great, 24/7 support. Will I have a senior engineer available to me at my 4 a.m. when I'm actually up doing work because I just landed from a flight or I just finished working out or whatever the lifestyle is that we live in this 21st century? What does it mean to have 24/7 support? I also love having conversation around dedicated account managers. Often I find that there have been some really successful account managers that come into play during the sales process and the onboarding process. And you bond with them, it works out really well. And all of a sudden, you get someone who doesn't speak your language and they don't know anything. And when you actually become a real client beyond the onboarding phase, they really put their customer face up front and then they just kind of throw you into the den.
Yeah, you have to watch that.
And so it's important to really know, how do I protect myself? How do I ensure that this dedicated account manager is there with me for the journey? And if they're not there for me the entire journey, how can I meet 1 or 2 of the potential people who might adopt my account in the 1, 2, 3, 4 months down the line?
That's great. And what about integration? I mean, everybody has systems already in play.
That's great.
How should I go about that decision-making process when it comes to integration?
Being brave enough to ask the right questions around the timeline for different integrations, being able to say that you have a prepared list about solutions you're already using, and being able to bring it to the table and saying, do you already integrate with these solutions? And if not, how are you going to address my need to maintain these? Some people will say, well, we don't work with them. You can use another proprietary system. That might cost you more money. Others will say, we will integrate with them, but they don't speak further, and you find out that they're going to charge you an arm and a leg for it after or during the signing process. And at that point,
doesn't sound good.
No, and you've spent a month or two sometimes in these process to build that relationship, and during signings when you find out there's additional costs, and you feel a little cheated, but yet you also feel like your time's been spent. And so you sometimes sign even in a sense of vulnerability. And so I would say be upfront about knowing when integration is available, but also knowing at what cost it is. The other things you want to think about are maintenance. You also have the knowledge base and then the multilingual support. The first two, which are like knowledge based solutions and then also maintenance, those are more basic solutions that are kind of out there right now. I don't always push too much into that. If there's a cloud solution or if there's a solution that doesn't live within your ownership or your domain, most organizations are doing the diligence to kind of keep them up. However, you might check reports, news articles to see if there have been breaches of security, if there have been any kind of time down. Those are usually reported on, and the team themselves will not share anything in those areas that aren't warm and fuzzy. So doing your due diligence
that's good.
is essential in those areas. And then the multilingual support. If you're offering a multilingual platform and if you're offering solutions in multiple languages and Maria is doing work at 2 a.m. and she needs someone who speaks Spanish because that's what she needs at that hour, is she going to get it? And is it important for you to provide that kind of resource for Maria, or is she going to have to speak English or at that time?
Right.
Deciding how you're going to spend your investment, deciding how you're going to really accommodate your users, and deciding how global your organization is and or will grow to be will be important. And so as we also speak about and grow to be as a phrase, it is important to, a lot of people will say, I'm going to just use this solution now, and then when I get bigger, I'll move to this better solution, which is great if that's where you are and if that's all you can do. Sometimes you just do what you need to do. But if you have the capability of growing and building within one platform, it's going to save you a lot of headache, potential lost data, all these migration issues that could potentially come up. It just really saves you the headache of doing it multiple times. I like it when people really go for the best solution for not only where they are right now, but also where they want to be tomorrow to build into and grow into.
That's good. In the final couple of things you'll see on the checklist, just as a reminder, the pricing, it's got to fit your budget, and the length of contract. It's got to be the right fit for how you're approaching it. A reasonably priced DAM is somewhere in the middle ballpark of all of your options. You don't need to go for the Cadillac. I definitely wouldn't go for the cheapest price one. You want something middle of the road and that is competitive with the other ones in the industry. And then the final thing is the community. Is there a user community around it? Sometimes that's important for you. Sometimes it's not. We just put it there because it's all part of that community relationship around the vendor of choice. Is there support for it? And, how do you do with that? So I think that covers vendor relationship